please state your name for the record, of course. Let me reset. Oh, there. Go for it. Thank you.
In researching music grants for our district and also CTE grants, I found out from Alan Wessel that 2 grants have been submitted to our district for possible being used. And I would like to know, were they submitted? Have they been submitted? Will they be submitted? If not, why not? And if so, what is the status? Thank you.
May I make a suggestion that at the next meeting, if you in your superintendent report, if it's possible, just
We'll follow up.
some feedback. Okay. I'm not sure we have the answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Item 8.01, AATA representative. Do you have a report tonight?
No, I don't. Thank you very much.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Happy New Year. CSEA representative.
Not that this time. Thank you.
Okay, Happy New Year to you as well. Okay. Hello. Do you have a report for us tonight?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So happy holidays, everyone, and happy New Year. I wanted to start out with that. And sorry I missed last meeting. I was at an away basketball game. So I do have the updates from then and ones of now. It's just together, so don't worry. To start off, at Meadowlark, the Student Council will begin plastic water bottle recycling this month. BirdTech Waste Management has donated some recycling bins, and we will be using those to collect the empty water bottles. The Student Council's focus is that everyone should be aware that taking care of our earth begins with little steps such as recycling. Also, the kindergarten classes would like to thank Mr. King for coming out to their classes for reading stories and playing his trumpet for them. The teachers also appreciate the books that Mr. King donated to the classes. Continuing on to High Desert, they had their annual holiday play that family, friends, and students enjoyed. Soccer tryouts were held before break, and Science Olympiad students are still having their weekly meetings as the day for the competition gets closer and closer. Lastly, at Vasquez, Parent and Community Violent Critical Incident Training will be held on Wednesday, January 23rd from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Vasquez High School in room 304 or 305. Also, I made copies of my report that I'll put under that table there if anybody wants to check up on the date or anything I read. This is an opportunity for parents and community to receive training in the Acton Agua Dulce approved response for a violent critical incident. This training is similar to that received by the teachers and staffs, by all the teachers and staff. VHS along with the district are offering this training so parents and community will know what our response protocol is and to be able to give feedback and suggestions prior to student training. The Associate Student Body at Vasquez, or ASB, has to report that they are working on revising the Mustang Mentor program to make it more of a true mentoring program. Details of all what that entails once the roadshow goes on. They're starting to work on the roadshow, and to shout out, Natalia Cordova and Aaron Fife are the leaders, and they're both juniors who are working on that along with the principal. And lastly, ASB is starting to contact and plan the Every 15 Minutes program, which will be happening this spring. Before the break, VHS's The Herd had 2 very successful winter shows, and soccer and basketball are still in full swing. There's actually home basketball games going on tonight. And lastly, what I'd like to report is that Harmonic Bronze had their national live TV performance on Christmas Eve, and it went extremely well, and I didn't make any weird faces, so it was good.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 8.04, submissions. Mr. King, do we have any submissions?
I don't believe we have any submissions for.
Okay, none. Item 8.05, new construction report.
A brief report on construction. On phase 3 at the high school, there's nothing happening. Everything's been cleared out, heavy machinery and equipment and so on. But we're in the middle of the 90-day maintenance program to ensure, according to the contract, that the the grass has taken root, irrigation is working properly, weeding and mowing is taking place. The commencement of that 90 days, or the end of the 90 days, then the students will be able to take to the field, which is roughly March. So that would be the 90 days, just in time for your softball season.
I was just saying, are you gonna have any kind of celebration, at least at the school level? I don't know if everybody's got to be there, but for the students to.
Softball would definitely want to.
Have the ribbon on their new
Well,
field or something.
we talked about it a little bit. We're going to do some sort of like a ribbon cutting with the team and invite the board out, and we'll do something else. So the other piece was, of course, the closeout items with Acton. And I apologize, I know I keep talking about the fence coming down and putting in the 3-rail fence, but the delay truly is that last piece on the American with Disabilities Act compliance issue with the railings and the ramps at AADUSD site and with Acton site. So those rails need to come up to 2 inches that we've talked about, but there's an issue with welding. So there's different gauge steels, there's existing gauge on so there's some question about can they add 2 inches or do they just take down the current railings and put up new railings that would meet the ADA standard compliance. So we're just dealing with that.
Okay. Item 8.06, the safety report.
Okay, so yeah, a couple things on safety, not a whole lot, but a few things I want to go over. Nothing to report specifically on safe routes to schools at this time. I did want to let you know about the next ALICE training, and I think Mr. Anders is here. It's going to be January 23rd, 6 to 8 p.m. in room 30. So that's the next ALICE training. Go ahead.
Room 304, 305.
Room 304, 305. Okay, thank you. Now there is no room 30, is there? So thank you. 304 and 305. The 4 got chopped off, I think. Okay, so that's great. And then I also understand from Mr. Anders that there's some new law requiring our local law enforcement sheriff's going to write some new tactical response strategy for our schools as well.
Right, I spoke with sheriffs yesterday to start setting up a meeting. The new law requires a tactical response plan that will be shared with the board in closed session because it's not available to the public. Otherwise, it's no longer tactical. So once we have met with both sheriff and fire department and developed that tactical plan, then we'll set an agenda item for closed session with the board to lay it out for them.
Okay, thank you, and Mr. Anderson, great getting our district safety team going, and keeping up with these compliance issues in addition to attending the Antelope Valley meetings, which are kind of an intra-district effort to deal with safety issues as well. So the last piece under safety is trees, and because we have 2 arborists on our board, normally we would have just taken down these 3 trees. But I felt I wanted to share this with the board prior to us removing these trees, and I have pictures for you and so on, but it appears necessary to remove 3 trees that are diseased, that are turning black, becoming seriously a safety concern because they're either in jeopardy of falling over, hitting a building, that's one of them, or certainly we don't want them to hurt any of our students or staff. But I have pictures for you and so on that I can pass around. The 3 trees are at, okay, so we have one in the transportation parking lot. We have one on Acton campus. We have one that's been completed as of January 7th that was in the backfield at Acton campus. That tree fell, and there were 2 others in danger of falling that we removed. And then one in High Desert near the NPR. So, you know, Mr. Valsgraf, Mr. Porter, you'd like to look at any pictures. If you have any other thoughts on it, happy to hear them. But if not, we're going to go ahead and move those 3 trees.
Mr. King, just make sure whoever you have to do the work is licensed and bonded, and that you check the validity of their license and bond at the contractor's state license board.
Okay.
So whoever does that work, and a person with that kind of an expertise, you know, obviously Ken and I would, I'm sure, speaking for myself, and I'm sure Ken would too, would love to look at them and give you our opinion. I think we're probably more lean towards removal of them if they have any type of a safety issue. However, if you do use a D49 tree service contractor, they will also be able to give the correct recommendation. If they have their license, they know whether it needs to come down or not. Just make sure you do that, because it has happened in the past that in all across different contractors, we have ended up using non-licensed contractors. And being a government agent, entity, we're supposed to make sure we go by the law.
We will double check. My thought is between Ms. David and Mr. Rona and Mr. Mora, that they're making sure that we're fully covered by bonded and insured folks.
And licensed. If they're licensed, they have to have license.
Okay.
Well, my only little bit of feedback on that, it's disappointing there's not that many trees around here. Some of them have been out here a long time. Maybe ask if there's something we can do to treat the others preventatively, so if that's there, so they don't necessarily spread. So
That's a great point, Michael.
Okay.
And
Then
there
they
is-
split out.
Some of them split out, but in looking at them since they were here, because they split and broke, we had, Mr. Moore had them look at the other trees as well, and they actually have like a beetle larva in them, which is why they're
The
recommending.
credential you're looking for, grab your pen, is an ISA certified arborist with a TRAC credential. TRAC.
We got trees covered here.
Remember, on public property, anything that's publicly funded, one person can file a court injunction, as Angela Drive versus Fallsgraf, California Supreme Court 2011 will attest to.
So,
Go look it up.
what Ken is talking about, guys, is that the person who diagnoses these things has the ISA certification that he just pointed out, and that the person who does the work has a tree service contractor's license from the state.
Okay.
That's two different things. The diagnostics, done by ISA, and the person who removes them must be state licensed as a tree service contractor.
Gotcha.
And if you have any questions, ask us. I think it's best if, instead of Ken and I looking at it, and I believe that Ken would have more of a diagnostics expertise in this particular area. I focus more on being a tree service contractor and doing the actual work, right, of the physical work of removal. I think it's best to, to have whoever, don't you think so, Ken? Don't you think it's best to have someone?
I got $2 million and I tell people what to do with it, so I think we've thoroughly impressed ourselves. Let's move on. ISA track credential.
We will
No,
confirm,
what I'm
I know
saying,
their
Ken-
license, we will confirm
Just get a
specifically
form that
what
says why the
license.
tree was needed to
Okay.
be removed, put it filed, please.
Are these removed and then replaced with something, or all locations, any locations?
They should all be replaced.
I mean, the one in the
Arbor Day.
parking lot, I think in
Plant some
Acton,
in
I mean,
Arbor Day.
the Acton school is out in the parking lot, but, but I mean, there's something else where it might be a shade for students. I mean, are they,
Well,
Maybe
we'll
say
just
that
go.
we suggest that if it's feasible, that they be replaced.
okay, I suppose that.
Yeah.
What I was trying to ask is, if Ken, do you think that we should diagnose this, or should we go to an outside source to do it?
No, I don't think, I think I diagnosed these a while ago and went through the whole elephant ears thing, and me sitting up here showing you where they're at and telling you that they split open, either I'm psychic or it's pretty obvious, right? So.
We actually did have a, contractors come out, it's their specific license, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but we actually did
Certified
actually
arborist
different.
is good. Anyway, put the form on file, you're good to go.
Okay.
All right.
I don't want to file an injunction myself.
This is 8.07. Is there anything?
What was the, on that, Beck, what was the date on that meeting,
Which means
safety meeting?
The 23rd.
the Alice training is the 23rd.
In 304, 305, the
At
23rd?
6 p.m. in room 304.
It's on this paper, this.
Yes.
Okay. Anything further out of the superintendent's report?
Just under superintendent comments, I have a few things to share.
Okay, please go on.
Okay, so first of all, welcome back, everybody. I hope you had an enjoyable break and got some rest with your staff. Got some time with your families and just to recoup and enjoy. There's a board governance workshop this Saturday. It's open to the public. It's from 8 to 11 a.m. this Saturday here in the boardroom, and our board members will be here to attend that. We've been working with Dennis Smith at one board governance workshop. There'll be a total of 3. This is the second of 3. And at this one, we're going to begin discussing where we left off on the board surveys. So Mr. Jorgensen will get up to speed with where His colleagues surveyed where the district's at in terms of status on a variety of topics. All of this moving towards what are the district's core values, what are we standing for, what direction are we going in, what's our vision, and leaning towards developing a strategic plan by going out to all stakeholders in the community. So we have a strategic plan on file, but we'd like to go out to our stakeholders and revisit the strategic plan so that everybody has input into that plan and move forward from there. So we also, just FYI board, we did get 6 new students this week, which is interesting, coming back from winter break. So we had 3 new students come to Meadowlark, 2 coming to High Desert, and we have 1 new transitional kindergarten student join us here over at Acton.
We had like 5 new students at Vasquez too.
And you did as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, there's 11 then. So, and I met a couple of the new parents. They were terrific. They were very complimentary of the school district and our schools and principals and so on. So that's just, I think it's important for the board to get that feedback. Just as an FYI, I will not be at the board meeting on February 14th due to a conference that I'll be attending. And so as the superintendent's designee, Ms. David will be here for that board meeting on February 14th in my stead. We have 2 Stagel videos to share with you tonight. The first one is from our activities ASB council teacher, and that is Carrie Owens. So when I was meeting with the students talking about essentially Stagel moments or telling those stories that are of inspiration or challenges or things that we overcame in our life, and I often talk to students at all ages about those sorts of things. And I love meeting with our ASB students to talk about this topic. And in an impromptu way, Ms. Owens decided to share her Stagel moment that struck her in the moment. So we'll turn this on, and here's Ms. Owens. Take 2.
Because even though I have my own personal goals, I've set New Year's resolution. My Stagel moment actually has to do with you guys. Because even though I have my own personal goals, I've set New Year's resolutions and everything else, and I take care of business. But you guys, as an ASB group, came into ASB with a lot of challenges. We had a ton of challenges, and I am so incredibly proud of you guys because we have a group that a lot of them have anxiety issues. You would never know it once they're out there and representing ASB that they have those anxiety issues because they represent us very well. But you guys did. You came together. You're supportive of each other. You guys did a fantastic pep rally, absolutely fantastic pep rally. Everyone was helping to clean up afterwards. People were involved with during the pep rally, even though we had some challenges for it. And you guys really have kind of stepped up to the level that I required you to do. I mean, we have people that are doing Cantina that have never done ASB before and have had parents that have come up to me and said, wow, these Cantina girls are great. They know how to handle the business aspect of it. Same with David. Researched for sound. He researched to get us a whole new system because our system was going down, and figured out until we were able to get that new system how to get a loaner from a company until we were up and going. And that was probably, what, a $2,000 system he let us loan, which is fantastic. I mean, that's saying something. And again, that's just a couple of you guys. All of you guys, I've been incredibly proud. I could go, through each and every one of them. Just, again, stepping out of their comfort zone, and like Jonah at Jonah's not a look at me kind of guy. And with freshman orientation, I'm like, you need to really make them feel comfortable and And I had an adult come up to me and go, "What did you do with Jonah?" All of a sudden he's going, "Hey!" Because I'd asked him to do that because it was needed. It was needed. And again, I could go each and every one. They're all fantastic. I'm very proud of all of them. So there's mine. That was long. Sorry.
So, and Ms. Solon just does a terrific job with ASB. For those who don't know, that's your student leaders that help run the events. They help sell food at the football games, take tickets, and they put in a lot of time, a lot of hours, and it's a lot of work. So I appreciate her taking on that role this year. And the second one's much shorter. It's about a minute. And so one of the things we do with students and staff is we have them share with each other first. It's easier to tell your story to a partner first before you share it with a class of 30 students. So those of us in education, we call that pair sharing. So these two girls had shared their story, and I gave them the option of sharing either your own story or that of your partner with their permission. So this young lady shared her partner's story with her permission. Oh, that's a different one? We'll see. It might be a different one. I may have given you the wrong scenario. So we have like 5 of them, so let's see which one.
My experience was when, back in elementary, I used to be like really antisocial. Like I would fight the teachers to not bring me to class. Like I hated school. Like I was so scared of like people, but like now I'm just like an outgoing person. Like I think I've grown as a person.
Yeah. How did you grow? How did you do that?
I don't really know. I just started like making more friends, and like the friends that I have now like make me like really comfortable and like supportive. And like before, like I wouldn't really have anybody because they would just like leave, you know. But like now, I just like they're all like come to me and like making me happier and stuff.
So if an 8th grader was to see this video, what would you want to say to the 8th graders that are really nervous and scared about making friends at high school?
I think just to find people who like know like what you're going through and that will be like supportive and like not talk bad, but behind your back or like just like do anything like against you. But like if there are people like that, then like just leave like right away. Like don't even like try to like change them. Like go find someone else to guys.
Thank you. What's your name?
Miriam.
How about a hand for Miriam? Okay, so the precursor I gave you will be the cliffhanger for the next one, the next board meeting. But I think, when we talk about, even to Ms. Fosberg's point, these things that inhibit students or make their learning very difficult, and I was one of those students. I had reading difficulties, and I had that social emotional aspect that made it difficult to connect with others, connect with the teacher, which makes the academic piece almost impossible to then overcome. These students speak eloquently to those points, and we're trying to make those connections with our staff, doing an excellent job out in the classroom. So thank you, appreciate your time, board, and that's it for my comments.
Thank you, Mr. King. All right, 8.08 board member comments. Let's just go down the line. Mr. Porter, anything?
Sure, thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Alyssa for a great presentation that she did, as always, and for writing everything down, all the information on here. You're in my 10 years on the board, you're the first student to do that. So I really, really appreciate that. And as she said, there's copies out there, right?
Yeah.
And that's just really refreshing, and my hat's off to you for doing that. I got a couple of things here. First, I'll start off with a quick, kind of like we agreed as a board over the years that when we go to CSBA, we make a little report. We have a few meetings to do it, but we didn't get a chance to do the last board meeting. So on Wednesday, 11/28, myself, Mr. Jorgensen, Mr. Fox, and Mr. King, we traveled to the CSBA 2018 conference. Wednesday was a travel day. We got there, and the following day, I personally, and I'm sure other board members will make their own disclosures, but I personally attended the classes on the Brown Act, on charter management, on small school district management, on the LCAP, on the evaluation, on the proper evaluation of the superintendent, and then these are over 2 days, and also attended the keynote speech by the outgoing CSBA president and the incoming CSBA president that outlined in a pragmatic fashion some of the challenges that California schools are facing. And also in those 2 days, Thursday and Friday, went on the convention floor, which is all kinds of different vendors for the school, for the public school industry. And traveled back on Saturday morning. I had a couple of issues I wanted to bring up just for consideration. As you know, we're paying for the high school that we built, and the way that was done is there's a certain assessment for each $100,000 of assessed value on your home. So let's say your home is worth $500,000. That would be 5 units of $100,000, and you would multiply that when we sold the bond at 31 cents, at $31 per 100,000. Okay, so I just got my tax bill. I'm paying my second half, and I noticed that we're now being charged 38 cents, transferring to basically $38 per 100,000. So for the average home, that's the difference between $186 and $228, about a $50 difference. So what I'd like to ask the staff to do, if I have my colleagues' consensus, is to take a look and see what caused us to go from 31 cents to 38 cents, causing, you know, the average home to pay about almost $50 more. So used to pay.
It floats up and down. Frankly, it does float up and down with
how many people are paying.
With how many people are paying and what's happening with home values and everything. So those numbers are always projections. We did actually refinance the bonds and bring the numbers down, but you will see every once in a while small fluctuations because it depends on the tax base, because the same quantity always has to be repaid.
Exactly.
So
and it depends on who's paying, basically, right? How many people are paying. So if you could maybe, for me, find out the range, and just maybe take a look into that so I can be more educated about this. And then the second item I want to bring up is that, as you said, in March, we're going to, roughly in March, we're going to have the opening of the softball field. And as you know, that shortly after Mr. Layton's passing, we all voted as a board. I made a motion and we all unanimously approved that we would name the softball field after Larry Layton. I ran into his son, he inquired about that, so I was just wanted to give you a heads up on that. You know, I believe, speaking for myself, that if we could integrate that into the celebration, you know, when we open up the field.
It's a good thought. Yeah, we can do that.
So the third and my last thing is the fence out front. It's personally for me, and you know, I think for a district to a certain degree, it's a source of embarrassment, and I've tried to explain it every way possible. I keep getting snarky remarks about it, and I think it would behoove us to go ahead and move ahead with that. Perhaps we take a slight amount of risk with DSA, speaking for myself, but maybe either address that and go ahead and remove it at least before we built it, or find out a way to really articulate that to people, to include a sign possibly, because it comes up all the time. And that's it for me. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Mr. Jorgensen?
Just a couple of quick things. CSBA was a learning opportunity for me with Larry, Mike, Ed. We're up there. I did learn a couple of good things. I attended a lot of breakout sessions. I was bouncing from everywhere I could to gather as much information on similar topics that Ed was talking about. All kinds of things dealing with student education. And I was just like soaking everything in. One of the lighthearted ones that I did is I'm never going to follow Ed from the hotel to the Moscone Center, because we were going round and round and round, and it was raining, and Mike and them took off like rabbits, and I go, I don't walk that fast. And Mike had an umbrella that he didn't share, so I said, okay, that's fine. I just did it. Anyway, it was a very, for me, it was like a team building, because I was with two colleagues that I had not worked with before.
It was very nice.
Superintendent Keating was there, and he and I had the opportunity to sit down and have a cup of coffee. And so we sat and talked, so it was a great learning experience for me to get in there. So I took a lot of notes, and I've been, since I'm so busy in my daily job that I have time to get on the internet, and I go back and I keep researching some of the things that I did and the notes that I took so I can bring those up, and as they become appropriate, I'll be bringing those up again when I have questions. Locally, I go to the sites. When I go to the sites, I'm not just going there just to support the students, which I do on every time I get an opportunity, but I go there and I'm observing the image and the presence of our sites. What do they look like? Are we taking care of them? Do we have maintenance? Are we not falling behind? And Dan's here, and as I go to the high school, and I did share Dan a text that I make these observations about, I know we have somebody should be doing some of this, I just bring it up. It is just safeguarding investments that we have, and it's incidental stuff, but it's still, when you add all the incidentals up, it becomes something, well, we gotta go out and spend more money. So I'm more of a person that wants to make sure we take care of what we have, put it away, somebody's job somewhere, make sure we get it done. No, don't wait on it, put it away, get it done. So I want to add to the text, Dan, is that the flagpole behind the scoreboard for our soccer games, the rope is hanging there, and I'll come down and fix it. It's a simple job, just run up there, put a new rope up so we can put a flag up for our home soccer games. Softball has their flag, that's super. It's just these little details that set us apart as a small school district that we take care of our students, we present them with opportunities, and I want them to look the best. I want them to be like, whoa, wow, look at this. We were one of the first schools to have a lighted baseball scoreboard, and that was all through donations to family members and communities, and we all got together and made it happen. Didn't cost the district a dime, except for the electricity bills, but we need to take care of that stuff, and I want to make sure that we're not losing sight of that. The last thing I have is I was brought to my attention that we have now athletics at the High Desert, which is great. We're starting to engage the students and give them opportunities. And our soccer there, the season is just starting, if I'm not mistaken. They play on the active field back here. That's where they compete and practice or do whatever. That's a terrible field. I mean, I worked out there with my football team. In the time that I was working there with the football team, I was taping probably 50% more ankles because they're bigger boys. But it's a field that's not in good condition for athletic use. It's not one of our proudest fields. I understand that now Desert Winds is gone, has concluded their season at Meadowlark's upper field. And I'd like to see if there's a way we can move them and let them use that. We've used that field. That's a much better conditioned field. Image for what people want to see, what we're presenting for our students, take care of our own little athletes to help them stay with us. So I just want to bring that up, that if we can check to see if we can let the High Desert soccer team use the Meadowlark field as opposed to keeping them back here in the back. I don't know who has jurisdiction, where that's at, but they're just starting their season, see if we can use that up there. And that's all.
Yeah, we can talk about it with staff on Tuesday.
Thank you.
It's a great point.
Great points there.
Welcome back, everybody. Tim just trounced all over my stuff.
You didn't go first.
You just got here. Yeah, there is expansion of the district sports programs, which makes me happy because our high school programs are dying on the vine. I don't know what happened. We're lacking JV people. I think for a couple years we were so focused on charters we forgot about everything else. But everything coming back. I'm really happy about what's going on at High Desert. That's going to result in replenishing our football teams and our high school teams, so I'm happy about that. But I asked, and I know it's coming, that a facility report be given about our maintenance, our facilities, and in my input to the superintendent's office, since this is what I do for a living, part of it is break things out. What's educational space, what's parking lot, and what are the FTE efforts given to especially sports fields. So that's one of the things I'm looking at. So if staff is not coming forward and saying at budget time, I need a budget enhancement because we have a sports program, if there's not a bunch of athletes in the room of one age, and then suddenly there are, even a tree guy can figure out that there might be additional maintenance required, additional funds required. What I'm seeing now is, short of that report, and I know that report's coming out, and I know it's going to be thorough, but what we've got is we've got a lot of self-advocating going on where it's, okay, I'm gonna go talk to this person, and if I don't get what I need there, I'll go talk to this one. So we're kind of working the realm of the site principles to see which one will let us play on our field. I have concerns that when we start taking third-party goals and nets and that type of thing, incorporating them to our use, do we have the right agreements in place? I'm also a firm believer that we don't trash one field down to nothing and then move on to the next best one, because when that one's trashed, we've got nothing left. So I think at some point we need to expand the scope of the director of athletics to become a liaison where they're familiar with what's going on at each of the sites, and then can support the principals when questions come forward to the community. Whether it's Sandy Fosberg telling us that our reading program can be enhanced, or parents who want sports opportunities for their kids and the good things that come with that, they come to the microphone. I always appreciate that very much. But I think the athletic director in the future needs to take on a district-wide role, not so much control, but to help and act as a liaison to make this thing go. Because in the end, 4 or 5 years from now, we're going to have more full teams. We're going to have people coming back to the district, and no one will know how it happened. But it's just getting off the ground right here. So I appreciate the parents with their patience. It's very difficult for me to hear someone come forward and be critical of staff for a program that just started 4 months ago. Thank you.
I don't have a lot this evening, just Happy New Year, but the only thing I can add about the sports at High Desert is I'm approached by all kinds of community members coming up, and they love the sports program. I can't tell you how excited they are. And I'm, see lots of stuff on social media and whatnot where the students are posting pictures and the parents are having pictures. And not only are they really enjoying the sports program, but it's really building some great relationships with families and stuff in our community. So I really appreciate that. So I think the text messages are going to keep coming, because this guy over here, I think he did a lot of the little raising the flag and making sure the rope isn't hanging. So now that he's retired, we have to figure out how we can volunteer and do some of those things. He might have some extra time.
Let me check my calendar. I think I have
Can you
time
sit
to
on
work
the
on
board
that.
and be the athletic director? Oh, never mind, I'm sorry.
So, Mr. Jorgensen, I know you did a lot of extra little things when you were a teacher there. So some of those things that we just have to find other people to take on some of those tasks. That's all I have to say.
Nothing really for me. I'll save my report out that's required for the conference till next week, just to break them up, and let's move on with the rest of the agenda. Other than Happy New Year and welcome. Okay, the next item is the consent agenda. It's comprised of the meeting minutes of the previous board meeting, the personal action report, and the warrant register. Can I have a motion to move in the consent agenda?
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
I've got something to pull off the personnel action report. It's a comment. Should I do that?
You can make a comment, unless you think it needs to be pulled, if the item needs to be pulled.
No, I just wanted to point out there's an employee on there named Callie, and I think everyone knows her. And she worked in our SPED program, and she was the bus aide, and I hate to lose her. I wish her the best, and I don't know any particulars, but at the end of the day, she was very critical in picking up kids, sometimes kids especially with behavioral issues, which is why she was on the bus. Picking those kids up and transitioning them into the learning environment and going down the road, and you know how the freeway is around here. She was able to stabilize a lot of kids and do a lot of good things, and she did a great job for this district, and I hope someone will let her know that.
You know, Dr. Cooper's continuing what I started when I got her, which is the exit interviews. So I'll follow up with Dr. Cooper and kind of get a take on that.
Yeah, she played a critical role in making people feel safe and settle down when they get here, and that's huge on some of these issues. So, thank you.
I have a question on the second one, but I don't, it's just, I have questions, but I don't know that it's something. Because
You're welcome to ask questions.
Well, the person that's being recommended, is that the one that graduated last year? Is that?
For the assistant girls basketball coach you're talking about?
Yes.
I have no idea, Mr. Andrews. Melissa Trussell's given us a thumbs up, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I will take Ms. Trussell's word for it.
Well, and I know the individual, and she's a terrific athlete. But when we're assigning coaches and assistant coaches, two things come to mind is that we have individuals who can play the game, but can they coach and teach the game? And then from a liability purpose, the age of the individual has concerned me because she just graduated last year.
It always is.
Concern for us?
It always is, and so when we go through our vetting out process and recruitment, legally we certainly have to afford them every opportunity, and if we were to discriminate because of their close in age and proximity, that's an issue, but we do want to be aware of it at the same time. So through the vetting out process and the interview process, this is who emerged as the final candidate, and it's who we recommend to the board.
Okay. Call the question. Aye?
Aye.
All right. 10, now we're moving into item 10.
Let's go, point of order, that are we, was there going to be discussion on the board register?
It's a consent agenda, so it's all at once. If you
Oh,
want,
okay.
we could have.
Well, I thought we were doing one at a time.
Oh,
I had
I'm
a
sorry.
couple questions.
So go with, let's
do this,
Let's
Mike.
ask the question in the future. Just if you have a specific question on something, you just ask that we remove it,
Okay.
and then we'll do one at a time. But
Oh, okay.
go ahead. I don't want you to not have your question. Go ahead.
Well, this is for Lynn, and I spoke to Lynn briefly about it, but I wanted some clarification on an item that was shown. Were you able to?
Yes, so, Mr. Jorgensen's question was on the in lieu of for charter, why was there a negative and a positive balance, and then there was a net amount? So what that is one of the entries is actually the revenue as it comes into the district in the form of in lieu of payments from the state to the district. The other one represents the payment of what's owed for oversight fees. And as we go through the through each month, because we get revenues throughout the year for each month, and then we pay, and our agreement has been that we typically pay 2 to 3 times a year when there's a settle up amount, because at parts of the time the charters owe us more and at parts we owe them. So once there's amount due, that's what you're seeing represented there. So the one entry represents revenue to the district, the other one represents an entry for the oversight fees, and then the warrant is issued for the net amount.
Right, so, and I did some more, after we had our conversation, I did some, studying and learning on that, but my question remains, is that, so the one that we talked about,
It has to be method.
was that 37, what? 689, 699?
Yeah.
Just for my education, since I'm learning, I'm not going to ask questions to make sure I know.
Absolutely.
The top number there on that one,
That's the revenue coming into the district.
okay, who comes up with that number?
The state.
What generates that number?
The state does that.
The state does because
Since we have our auditor here, she might be able to articulate.
Well, somebody set
It's
a number to them. It's an ADA number that generates that number.
Yeah.
And the state sends it down, and then then the second number, which is less, that's the actual.
That's our oversight fee, which in our district is 3% of the LCFF.
From the whole, and then the
Which is
difference
also
is
determined by the state based on
that's what
ADA.
we're withholding, because that's our 3%, and then we're balancing them out and giving them their check.
Yes.
Okay, well, I didn't get a chance to ask that question about who generated that number. So, and that applies to all of these disbursements to all the charges that we have.
Yes.
Right.
Are you comfortable with your vote? I mean, if you're not, then
No, I am.
I'll break
I
it
just
up, we'll do
wanted
a
to-
do-over.
I thought, no.
Okay, very good. Okay.
So it was 5-0 on the consent.
Yes, it
calendar.
was. Yes, sir.
Questions will be noted. Perfect.
All right. Lost my motor. Okay, here we are. We're on 10.01, which is resolution number 18-19.08, authorization to teach outside credential, education code 44263. And do I have a motion to move this in? I'll make it.
Second.
Okay, I got Kelly as a second. Mr. King?
So
Any discussion?
there's two items, 10.1 and 10.2, both on allowing folks to teach outside their credential. The difference is the ed code. So the ed code justification under section 44263 allows them to teach, in this case, pre-calculus and yearbook because of the units they completed, the coursework those teachers completed during their college experience.
Any questions on this
Yes, I
particular
have.
one? Go ahead.
So on the pre-calculus one, what's the next level of math that would follow? This is a prerequisite for something. What is this a prerequisite for?
For calculus,
Do we have a teacher teaching calculus?
Mr. Andrews, Dr.
Yes, we do.
So then this is going to be a prerequisite, so they need to complete this before they go into calculus, or some assessment that says they go straight into calculus?
Generally, if they pass the class with a C or better, then they can advance into calculus,
Pass which calculus?
pre-calculus.
So they do have to take pre-calculus.
Pre-calculus is a prerequisite for calculus.
Okay, great. Now, my second question on the yearbook, isn't yearbook a stipend position in the contract, data contract?
So it's both a stipend position and it's a classroom teaching assignment.
So it's a whole period.
Yeah, so there are several positions like ASB where you have a class during the day,
Yeah.
but that position also requires hours outside the classroom, and so there's a stipend as well.
Right. But it requires a credit. We have to notify that they're at work for yearbook. We have to do something saying outside of their credential.
Yeah, anytime they're teaching outside their credential, we have to document it.
So that applies for athletic director as well.
For which director?
All the period stipends, they all have to be in this assessment,
This,
right?
I don't.
So, if I can speak specifically to yearbook, the state says that yearbook either requires an English credential
Okay.
or a graphic arts credential.
Okay, very good.
Our teacher who's teaching yearbook does not have either of those credentials,
Okay.
so she's teaching outside of her credential.
Okay.
There is no athletic director credential or ASB credential.
That's the
so those are
clarification I
separate.
need, that it is required that they have English or the other, and the person that we have that's stepping up to make sure that we have it done is outside credential.
You got it.
Okay.
So these are volunteer, not voluntold.
Correct.
You can have someone
Correct.
that wants to,
That's right.
that has everything they need, but just won't do it.
Correct.
That's
right.
Anything else?
Hold on, just a second here.
And we're just on this first one.
Oh, okay, so now
So if there's no more questions about this particular teacher and this particular
10:01 is fine.
exception, we'll take a vote, then we'll move on to the next one because it's a separate agenda item. Any more questions on this particular? All right, then I'm gonna call the question 10.01.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I think that was a 5-0-0. Okay, now we will discuss 10.02, resolution number 18-19.09, authorization to teach outside credential education code. And this code section is 44258.3, as the superintendent had alluded to. Would somebody open this one?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. King?
So this one will allow Ms. Sharp to teach technology literacy, and the difference is this one's based on experience.
Question, so this probably would go to Mr. Andrews, is that when we're authorizing individuals to teach outside of their credential, how does that impact the last accreditation when we have highly qualified teachers in all assignments? does it have an impact when we get ready to do a credit, when we get ready for our lawsuit
It
credit?
doesn't, because these ed codes allow for us to do that.
So there's not going to be any impact?
No.
Okay. Just check.
Any further questions?
No, thank you for asking.
Okay, call the question.
Aye.
Aye. 11.01, resolution number 18-19.10, to approve the charter school renewal petition for SIA Tech. I'll move it in. Second?
Second.
Was that Tim?
Yes.
Thanks, Tim. And these are for?
Those are for 11.2.
11.2, okay. All right, Mr. King.
Okay, Ms. Patterson, do we have some information on this?
This is for the vote for side tech, and the recommendation is for approval of the renewal for side tech.
Is there any discussion or questions?
I have something. Is there someone here from SciTech?
Yes. The principal?
Come on down.
All right.
I think Mr. Reed out here characterized the last time I talked to you as a world famous rapid fire interrogation. Thank you. The one question I have for you is this. You've had basically a WIOA classification.
Yes,
And that is your exception to Shasta.
that is correct.
And since the Shasta ruling, there has been no gap in your WIOA relationship.
No, the WIO relationship.
Right, and so the WIOA relationship, my understanding is there are groups that get the funding and you work with those to provide opportunities that ultimately benefit the students in making them more ready for the job market or possibly going to work with one of the sponsors or something like that. So my only question to you is this: in the event that you were to have a lapse in your WIOA relationship that would affect your Shasta credential, what is your responsibility to this board?
What we do if there's a lapse,
Yes.
we seek out another WIO relationship that is in close proximity to one of our 3 sites. So for example, we have a working relationship with a local WIO of our Boyle Heights site, which is literally across the overpass in Boyle Heights. If that, for whatever reason, a contract would diminish and it would be gone and the OU is gone, then we go ahead and look for another WIOA locally around the site to make sure that we're in compliance with that.
So someone could lose their funding, not participate, other people are doing things. So I just wanted in the record, in the event, the odd event that would happen, that would be something you would report to your authorized.
Oh, absolutely.
Perfect, thank
Keep
you.
in contact.
Thank you, you have my support.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Any other questions from any other board
Thank you
members?
for asking. I'm okay.
Call the question?
Aye.
Okay, that's a 5-0-0. Thank you. All right. 11.02. This is a public hearing for Compass Charter School renewal petition. It's renewal season. And okay. Can I have a motion to open the hearing?
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. A second?
Second.
All right, and the start time is 8:25. And there's public comments with respect to this one.
Yes.
Do you, Mr. Superintendent, prefer that they follow or proceed? Any other discussion?
So we've typically had them proceed, unless there's some reason to have them go after. So the only question I had is I assumed, and want to make sure we're correct, that the 11 comment cards we have are all in favor of the charter. Are any of those comments against the charter?
No.
Okay, so because we would want to allow equal amount of time for speakers if there was 2 sides. So since they're all in favor, then we'll go with the strategy.
Okay, so normally, as we learned earlier tonight, it's 3 minutes per speaker. However, if there's a particular topic that has a lot of speakers, it's 20 minutes per topic. So there's approximately 11 cards here. So I'm gonna set my little timer here for 2 minutes per speaker. And That gets pretty darn close to 20 minutes.
Thank you, Mike.
And there's too many here for me to alphabetize on the fly, so I'm just gonna call you up at random. So, Miss Carrie Talcott, would you like to address us? And please state your name for the record. And there's 2 minutes.
Yes, hi, my name is Carrie Talcott. I have been with the school since the inception of the school, and I very much appreciate you seeing us. I very much appreciate you giving us an opportunity to serve the kids in this community. We love our children, we love serving them, we love what we're doing to provide them an online education. And I would love to have more opportunity to do that. We're making changes, positive changes. We have a special ed department, we have a counseling department. We have an administration now which came from nothing, but we are building it up, and we are making changes for the betterment of these kids. I feel that we're doing this alongside you guys. We're not in contrast to what you're trying to do. Our goals replicate what you're trying to do. We're just doing it because we enjoy serving kids, doing an online education. We have a homeschool department as well, and adding a new component into the world of education, which is charters. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Miss, or Miss Tori. Arian Angel? Did I say that right? Angel?
Erica Angela.
Angelo! It's that writing, handwriting.
It is a lovely handwriting.
I didn't see the O, otherwise I would have known it was Angelo.
I apologize
No,
for the
you're
handwriting.
fine. Please remember to state your name for the record.
No problem. My name is Erica Angelo, and yeah, we love to talk here because we love our jobs here, and we love to help our students in any way that we can. I'm going to pull up my document here. I apologize. So first of all, I'd like to thank you guys all for having us here. I work in the online sector of the middle school department, and I've been teaching at this school for 4 years, 10 years in education, and I'm excited to share our mission with you guys and the experience that I've had here as a teacher. So I'm excited to bring our best practices, and I believe we do that each and every day here at our school. And we've learned, I've learned many things here that when I've been here at this school, and I can say from all of our teachers here that we continue learning through professional development and taking many certification courses to not only be good teachers as well as online teachers. I teach in the online sector. We have a lot of other different parts as well. I should probably hurry up here. I have probably 1 minute left.
You do, you're right.
So I think one of our missions here that we really try to focus on is the individualization of our education towards our students and personalizing the experience just for them, because we notice when they come into our schools, they're, you know, they come with a lot of anxiety, and the parents do as well. And we like to open up our classroom with respect and kindness. And we're about to start our kindness challenge this next month, and we're focusing on some Arctic values this year now. So we have achievement and teamwork and communication. So we express that in our classrooms as teachers. And I think through expressing those values, the kids really start to open up. And with my experience this past 4 years here at our school, I've really seen these scholars of ours really open up and start to love learning, whether they come in loving learning or just develop a new love. Thank you.
I don't want to make it stop now. Thank you. Next up, Ms. Christy Smith. Don't forget to state the name of the record.
Yes, I'm Christy Smith. I'm the director of our options learning and part of the first time learning department or division. And so we have our online and we have our home study programs. So I oversee the home study program. And this is my 3rd year with Compass, and I have a background in classroom teaching, also independent study. And it's been really refreshing, this experience with Compass, because you see, we see a wide variety of scholars that come from different backgrounds, and we're we call ourselves personalized learning for a reason, because we're really trying to tailor what we're doing to the scholars, whether it's choosing a curriculum that's specific for them, or creating a community, a school community, so allowing them to school at home, but also, even though it's a virtual environment, it's also the community aspect is really important to us. So we do things like field trips, we have online clubs, kindness challenge that Erica mentioned. So we're creating that community, even though it's an independent study environment. So I guess the best way to look at it is just to look at our different scholar stories, why they're with the school, what experiences they've had, and then how we can best serve them. So I think we really work hard at that and do a good job at it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Erin Smith?
I know we like a handful of Smiths at our
Yes.
school.
I thought
my name is Erin Smith. I have about 16 years in education overall. This is my 6th school year at Compass Charter Schools. I've had experience teaching online, being a mentor online, being kind of overseeing our online department as a manager, and this year as director of online learning. As I said, 6 years at Compass Charter Schools, and I've seen nothing but huge strides and humongous change, and all for the best. And what Christy mentioned with us really building upon that community, we not only really foster and encourage that between our teachers and our staff, but with also our scholars and our families. And we really are a family, and I think we continue to build upon that community that we really have seen continue to grow as we've been here at Compass. So thank you for having us tonight.
Thank you. Mr. David Rash?
Hi, my name is David Rash. I'm the Director of Information Technology at Compass Charter School. I oversee all the technology for the scholars and the staff, and I am here to support the renewal efforts for Compass Charter Schools of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll say Mr. or Mrs. or Ms. Trevino, because I couldn't read the first name.
I'm going to say that from now on.
Good evening. My name is Sophia Trevino. I am the Director of Human Resources at Compass Charter Schools. This is my 4th school year with Compass. I work with human resources, yay! But I am here to support the renewal of Compass Charter Schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Fishman?
Follow that. Wow. Good luck. I'm Lisa Fishman. I'm the director. No, I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. I'm responsible for human resources, information technology, and operations. And I'm, of course, here to support our charter renewal. And I know you've heard a lot from the teachers about the scholars and how important they all are to Compass. Couldn't agree more. I just want to tell you what a great staff we have, dedicated, hardworking, long-term, not high turnover like you could expect in our environment. And everybody's focus is always on the success of the scholars. And I think that it's a unique group of people who, even though we don't work in the same room, we are, like Erin said, a family. So again, thank you for having us.
Vanessa
Placencia.
Placencia, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Vanessa Placencia. Thank you for having us today. I am the compliance coordinator at Compass Charter Schools. I oversee the enrollment and records department. I have been with Compass for 4 years, and I support the charter renewal.
Thank you. Megan Buren.
Block letters on it. My name is May Van Floren. And I've been in education for 25 years. I am the assistant superintendent of personalized learning, so oversee the options program and the online program. And I'm here to support the renewal. You've heard lots of great things already, so I want to respect your time. But I'm here to support the renewal of Compass Charter Schools Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Miguel Aguilar.
Hello, I'm Miguel Aguilar, executive assistant to the superintendent at Compass Charter Schools. I've been with the organization since 2014, and I'm here to support the charter renewal. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think this is Deborah Stephen. Stephanie.
It's common, I'll take either opportunity to speak. Good evening, my name is Deborah Steffen. My role at Compass is the Director of Counseling Services. I've had the honor and the privilege to develop and create a school counseling program for Compass that supports scholars on all levels, academic, social, emotionally, as well as college and career readiness. I have over 20 years of experience in education as a teacher, as a parent, and as a school counselor. I'm here this evening to support the renewal of the charter, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Now is there a presentation?
Presenting will be J.J. Lewis. He is the CBO of
Oh, okay, so that wasn't.
That wasn't the hearing, so now, so.
I'm just gonna do some. So now, that was public comment period. Now we actually open the hearing and we're gonna call it 8:38. So I'm just gonna fix the notes here and clerk as well. 8:38, the hearing is open. Thank you.
And you'll have 20 minutes. 15 minutes, go ahead. That was great, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, good evening. Thank you so much, members of the board, staff, and community for allowing us to present this evening. My name is J.J. Lewis. I have the honor and privilege of serving as the superintendent CEO for Compass Charter Schools, and I want to walk you through a brief presentation and then open it up for Q&A. I was hoping that I would even eat the clock before Q&A, but I know that's not an opportunity. So it's all good, and I think I have to do this with the winking. Okay. Our agenda this evening, talk a little bit about the mission and vision of Compass Charter Schools, whom do we educate, what we offer, focus on the future. We always want to talk a little bit about CCS in the news, and then the Q&A portion. Our mission is to inspire and develop innovative, creative, self-directed learners, one scholar at a time. It's a mission we take very seriously. It's very near and dear to our hearts, and it was developed through input from all of our stakeholders in 2016, and then at a retreat. Normally you spend a great deal of time with 80 or so individuals to come up with your mission and vision statement, and this family, using feedback, came up with it, and I think it was about 90 minutes or so. It's something that we're very proud of and something that we are doing each and every day. Our vision is to create a collaborative virtual learning community, inspiring scholars to appreciate the ways in which arts and sciences nurture a curiosity for lifelong learning, and prepare scholars to take responsibility for their future success. So our whole aim is to equip scholars to prepare for the next chapter, whatever it may be, college and or career, public service, and the like. So it's to be ready for their next chapter. Whom do we educate? I think you heard briefly that our scholars are coming to campus for a variety of reasons. They're coming from a variety of backgrounds, and quite frankly, we're a K-12 charter, so they're coming from a lot of different grade or age spans as well. We serve as an independent study non-classroom based charter, LA County, Kern, San Bernardino, and Ventura counties. We started the school year with about 500 scholars and have been growing since then in LA and the surrounding areas to about a little over 600 scholars earlier this month. I check the counter every day, but then I record it on the 5th of every month. Otherwise, it could be a fun experience. They're looking for individualized education that fits those lifestyles, those experiences, those schedules, those interests. So a couple of quick slides just in terms of, demographics. And I apologize, the script's a little, or the screen's a little small, but it's about 50-50, 52% or so female, 47% or so male in terms of gender enrollment. This is based on census data, just to give you a quick snapshot. Slide. Ethnicity, similar as well. Hispanic population, a little over 44%, and the non-Hispanic population, 56-ish % from this slide, again, from census data. Just want to give you a quick idea of some of the population groups. I won't play videos. You have the link here, and I always struggle when I embed links, so technically click on this image, it's there, but this is a scholar testimonial from Avery Stansberry, is a member of our Scholar Leadership Council, has a little over a minute to say about Compass and his experience, and if you have time, I encourage you to visit the link that's on the bottom of this slide to learn more about Avery. And similarly, Carson is also one of our high school scholars. A minute or two, and stay till the end because it's one of the more fun and engaging testimonies. But just so you can hear from scholars and about their experiences, I encourage you to take a look at those things. What do we offer at Compass? Of course, our curriculum is Common Core aligned. We pride ourselves on our accreditation being an A through G approved school for our high school courses. Our high school online courses are also NCAA approved, and that's because of this weekly learning labs that we offer. I sat in and observed one just this morning or this afternoon in the English Learning Lab and witnessed the engagement of our scholars in a virtual environment. And this is something that allows us to have some of those accreditations. It's not only the virtual learning labs that we're doing, but Q&A sessions and allowing scholars this opportunity to build community, and they're not learning on their own, as you might expect in an independent study program where you're on various islands, but there's opportunities in all of the content areas to engage in an hour or so of learning in each subject each week. I want to share a little bit of the feedback. We ask a lot of questions of our families. There's a lot of surveys that we put out, not just to families and scholars, but staff alike, something I pride myself on. So one of the things we asked this year is, how has your Compass experience been thus far? And as you'll see, extremely satisfied, 58%, we'll round down, 57% of our families said they were extremely satisfied with their Compass experience thus far. There were 0.85% extremely unhappy. It's an anonymous survey. I don't know who these individuals are, but there is opportunity for comment, and we do take those comments seriously. Our Scholar Leadership Council sees the comments. Our Parent Advisory Council sees the comments. If you wish to see the comments, we use a similar portal called Board on Track. It's in the December Parent Advisory Council packet, and you could read through the various responses, again, that are anonymous unless somebody put their name to it. But these are things that we do analyze as an organization to see, why are you saying what you're saying? So there is a point to asking the questions. Another question we asked, after attending Compass, I was confident that my scholar had the ability to learn and succeed in school. Very proud of this response, which was 85%, extremely satisfied. The parent was confident that their scholar had the ability to learn in school because they're enrolled at Compass. 0%, extremely unhappy. 0%, slightly unhappy. I'm very proud of this. There were comments, of course, that were shared with various entities within the organization. Still analyzed, because you can always do better. Focusing on the future. So where do we want to go? Our LCAP focuses on two primary areas: increase academic achievement and increase scholar and parent engagement. And throughout the presentation, I hope you're seeing some of the imagery on the slides. It's giving examples of what some of the experience look like in the classroom. For academic achievement, we are looking at a number of areas. We're looking at attendance within our learning labs and within the environment itself. We're looking at graduation rates. We are looking at scholars who are eligible to meet honor roll, 3.5 or higher overall GPA for the semester, and of course, SBAC scores. We have some initiatives in place to help with some of these various areas, including a new MTSS initiative this year, and all of our teaching staff and counselors are involved in tracking our scholars and supporting our scholars, whether that's through positives and positive rewards, a PBIS model, or it's not negative, but inviting them to special study groups or additional opportunities to learn the materials with their peers and with our content teachers who are all certified teachers. Increasing scholar engagement, we are looking to increase the number of scholar-led clubs that we offer, which is unique in a virtual environment. Having a parent advisory council, having a scholar leadership council, and it is in the LCAP, but surveys, and increasing, not the number of surveys that we do, don't worry, but increasing participation in those surveys, because again, it's valuable data that we can use to make impactful improvements on our program. We continue to say it's none of our school, it's all of our school. We all have to have a say on what we're doing and how we're supporting scholars in their academic success and along their educational journey. I want to show some highlights of CCS in the news. These are also, you can find them on our website. I just want to highlight some of the things that we have done as an organization. Being NCAA approved is a feather in our cap and something we're very proud of. We are also an AFID school, advancement via individual determination. I'm very proud of being in our second year of being an AFID school and teachers using those strategies in their classrooms, which I have been observing this week and in December, seeing that in action, which is terrific. There was the hurricane in Houston, and we adopted a school and came together because we do give back and support our schools and gave back to the Houston community. And some of our scholars have done some amazing things. We have a scholar who was on a Nickelodeon comedy series. We have scholars who won a film contest. I think the press release comes out tomorrow on that particular scholar. So staff, it's on its way in terms of an email. And some terrific things I think that are happening at campus. I invite you to take a look. The staff's amazing. The staff is proud of what they do. They live and breathe the mission, vision, and values of the school. They understand that we're here to support scholars. We're here to support their educational journey, to give them the tools to be successful and do whatever it takes to help them find that success. We are a social organization. I invite you to follow us on our various social media channels. I won't go through them all, but we're there trying to sort of spread the positive that is happening in this virtual educational environment. So we are sharing examples of what scholar-led clubs look like in a virtual environment, the social educational field trips that scholars are taking, and some videos to give examples of scholar testimonials, what the curriculum looks like, and so much more. So if you have the opportunity, take a look, and you'll see some great things there. Just a few more slides, and then we'll go into Q&A. I'm watching that light. I thought I was going quick. Okay, so the Compass experience, and I'm using some social media Twitter language with that hashtag Compass experience. We believe sometimes, most of the time, learning should be a little messy. And I just want to share in this particular slide that last year our honor roll rates, first semester honor roll, about 35% of our scholars received a 3.5 or higher overall GPA. Second semester, 38% of our scholars met honor roll requirements, and we're very proud of that. We give back to our community. We are proud to have a National Honor Society at Compass who volunteers and gives back. A lot of our scholars just give back, and so one of the things that we are working to really initiate and celebrate volunteerism and civic engagement is our Samaritan Award for Community Service. So any scholar who participates in about 50 hours of community service in the school year will then be named be given a Samaritan Award. So we're trying to recognize those good deeds. Our scholars graduate. It's terrific. 2016-17, about 73% of our scholars were eligible for graduation. And 17-18, 78%, which was an increase of 5% for Campus Charter Schools of LA. We also celebrated, and we keep on doing some great new things each year. So this May we had our first virtual Decision Day Assembly, where our team celebrated our scholars who were accepted to four-year universities, two-year colleges, if they were going to enter any of the branches of the military, if they were going to a trade school, if they were going to do Peace Corps, or if they just knew that they were about to be a rock star. I don't remember, it's not a direct quote. I think that poster finally came down by my office, but we did a lot of celebration of our scholars and where they decided to go to next. And, oops, I think I missed the work community. And we are doing a lot to bring our families together. Again, it's virtual, but we're doing, we have about 20 scholar-led clubs. We have some engaging field trips. We have our Parent Advisory Council, a Scholar Leadership Council. We're doing Coffee with Compass events to bring families and communities together, and doing everything we can to ensure that nothing is missed along the way in terms of an educational experience. And with that, I'm at Q&A. I appreciate the opportunity to partner with Acton. Proud of what we're doing and happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
You mentioned you have NCAA qualification.
Correct.
For getting them scholarships when they want to go to an institution. Do you guys organize, host any athletic teams?
No.
No. So in several of the letters that I received, there was that this allows them to participate in their sport. You're talking about when they go to club sport or outside of your organization.
Correct. There's several scholars who are doing club sports, a lot of folks who are doing swimming programs and the like. Correct.
Okay. And so you go as far north as Fresno?
The system does. The CCS of LA goes into Kern County.
So the Fresno, your Fresno, whatever.
We have a charter that's authorized by Orange Center in.
So that's not ours.
That's not yours, correct?
Because I saw that in one of the letters and I went, wow, Fresno. Okay, that's all I have.
Mr. Fox, Mr. Porter's bringing up a point of order that we set it for 15 for the Q&A, and at the board's discretion, you can extend it for 15 minutes at a time. Thank you, Mr. Porter.
I have no
Had
questions.
said it, I forgot to turn it on.
It's all good. Yeah, we want to make sure that we're uniform in how much time we give each position.
Thank you.
Ken?
Okay, you know what's coming. I have to do it. Ready? You're a nonprofit, correct?
Correct.
Perfect. Do you have any idea how many of our local students you've helped along the way? Just throw me a number.
This current school year, 0.
Okay.
I'd have to go back in time and see if there were any in previous academic years, but this school year, 0.
So your Shasta exception is that you are a virtual online system?
Correct.
So there's no resource centers anywhere I have to worry about?
Not for the CCS of LA charter that you
Perfect,
authorized.
thank you. Tell me, in the virtual environment, you know the game where I sign in for 1 minute, you get ADA, what's your fail-safe against that? Oh, I want to hear from you.
No, you don't want to hear from me.
Okay, so we're not doing K-12 thing. Oh, by the way, I need to
If you can hear from me,
apologize.
I'll tell you it doesn't happen, he'll tell you how it doesn't happen.
That's good.
How's that?
You got an IT person. I want to apologize for our president. He still can't say my last name. Mr. Brash, I would love to have your last name. Who's providing who's your cell phone?
Eldorado.
Okay. We're not doing anything. Who's entering your SACE data?
Our staff.
Good.
Feels like a game show.
The prizes are really bad.
No, we think the prize is great.
Tell me what your child find and assessment process looks like in the virtual environment.
Child find, our team, our enrollment team, our compliance team is looking at the scholars and verifying the CalPads and doing due diligence work. Assessment, what do you mean by?
So I noticed a problem. I suspect that there's an issue. Tell me where somebody says and how. I say, I think your child has.
I see, okay. So if a teacher recognizes that or a counselor recognizes that, we'll bring it to the attention of our Director of Exceptional Scholar Services, aka Special Education, who will then have a conversation with the family.
That's more palatable. I like that. Note that. What was that?
Exceptional Scholar Services.
That's right.
I unfortunately find the titles that go like wrap around the cards.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. Administration, do you have a board?
I do.
Do you have minutes and agendas?
We do.
Can you see them?
Yes, you can.
Cool. Can I be a vendor and serve on your board?
No, you may not.
Bummer. What percentage of your budget goes to back of house people in the background that do this thing for a living? Or do you staff these positions?
We staff our positions.
Imagine
We do
that.
have a back office provider who also assists, but the majority of the work is done in-house. We pride ourselves on doing
So you have auditors and financial people that you wouldn't have a full-time position for, but there's not somebody, it's like you don't have 14 different charters across the country and you're taking 25% of it.
No.
Okay, good. I didn't see that in the car you drove, by the way.
It's a good dodge. It's a good dodge.
They say I'm brutal, you're not helping me. Listen, the 21 letters I got, thank you for being discreet and sending them to individual board members, because when you send them to all 5 board members, that's like a no-no, and you already know about the Brown Act.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
I just have a couple questions. On your charter, you talk about the arts in grades using TEAL for TK through 5th. And it says you may or a similar program. What does your art program look like?
We are doing some virtual scholar workshops that have arts, I believe. And we have clubs as well. So Ms. Telcott is one of our club advisors. We had, I think it was a guitar workshop, or I think that's what I read as being slated. So a lot of virtual workshops that scholars can participate.
So you're not doing TEAL. You're just
I think we're doing more.
Can I just speak?
Sure.
We did TEAL last year through LA Office of Education. I was actually part of that, but I'm doing junior high this year, so I'm not involved in that. But they did offer us the training we needed to bring it back to the classroom to teach the kids the arts. In the TEAL is integrated arts, so you integrate the arts into science and math and everything. It's not its own separate entity.
No, I'm familiar, but it's the way it's worded, like may or similar, so I just wanted to make sure you have an arts program. So thank you for that. Question, your dashboard shows red for the graduation rate. So I don't remember what you said your percentages were, and are they improving?
So the disconnect is the seniors eligible to graduate is a much different number than the 4-year cohort graduation rate. So yes, we are in the red in the 4-year cohort. So
another question, I'm concerned about your Hispanic population's math score, 6.9% in math. That's a big gap for the other students that you have. So I'm curious, what is your plan? Are you coming up with a plan of how you're going to improve in math for your Hispanic population? And I'm reading about your EL, and I want to assume just because you're Hispanic, you're EL. I know that's not the case. But I'd like to know what you're doing for that, because I see some MTSS and you talk about tier ranking, and then I read somewhere you see them like weekly, like small group weekly. So I just want to, I need you to explain to me your RTI program, how you're going to help these students achieve being a virtual school. So can you explain that a little bit better?
Sure. So we are aware of the aspect scores that finally came out. Our teams are having internal conversations on strategies that we can implement to support their success. So just to answer, I think the first tier of your question, we are aware of the data. We have also shared the data. Our next board meeting is later this month. We had parent town halls during your last board meeting, actually, and we shared the dashboard results with our families that particular week, so the entire campus community is aware of where we stand on the dashboard. So just to answer the first point, in terms of what we're doing with MTSS, our teachers are on a weekly basis looking at assignments submitted, work completed the week prior, and assigning various points, and based on a certain number of points that are received by that scholar in a particular week, they will be placed on whatever tier category is applicable. Based on that tier, they might be then invited to study group sessions that week. I'm not sure if any of our teachers here have, or math and English, if anybody's instructed in any of those. But then the teachers could speak a little bit more about what that looks like, but in terms of process, they're being identified on a weekly basis.
On a weekly basis, so you're seeing them about once a week. So if they're tier 2, tier 3 intervention, how is that helping them when they're being seen like maybe once a week when it's more time?
I don't believe that we have identified any scholars on tier 3, but we have identified scholars on tier 2, and I'll ask my teachers if they can help answer what that looks like. Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no problem. When they go up in tiers, so they get to tier 2, we're going to start seeing them more regularly, and then we assign them additional assignments through our iStation. I don't know if that's something you're familiar with, but it's something that we then provide them additional work that we follow up with them on that as well.
Okay. So I think like just a little more clarity on that would be great, because not always more work will make the kids succeed. They need more support, not more work. So I understand what you're saying. It depends on your program. Did you have some
I have
comments?
something also to add. I've done the English, the ELA, and what we do is we use the session to go over basic skills that they didn't get previous years, to catch them up, to scaffold them up to where they need to be. It's not necessarily extra work they do outside of the lab. They go into the lab, they get that half an hour to 45 minutes of intense work on their basic skills to help them to get
daily or weekly?
That is, for tier 2, it's once a week. For tier 3, it's twice a week.
Okay. All right. So I'm just gonna recommend that you kind of, build up your RTI program. Also, it talks about your EL population. You talked about Audit, and you talked about Audit on your link. How many of your teachers have been to the Summer Institute, and how many of them are actually qualified to teach Audit?
We have had 8 staff attend.
It was 8 this summer. 2, yeah.
So are you setting more this summer?
We are, yes.
Okay. Because I see you talked about Wicker and all of that stuff. That's all I have for now. I'm just concerned about the math scores, and I hear what you're saying, but I'm not really sure that you have a solid RTI program of how you're going to help these students succeed. And I love the fact that you are reaching all students, but what are we doing for the kids that aren't getting it? So I think that I'm going to recommend that you work on that a little bit more.
I appreciate that.
I'd also like to add in that concern that we did address with them also, they are working with I'm sorry, just that quick, I just had a brain freeze. They are working with the RTI. We have a breakdown of how they're going to address those concerns with their response to intervention. And also, what did I just mention to you? We were talking about the PBIS that they are implementing too. So there's a number of things that we've also discussed with how to.
And I get you're typing and there's like, you know, you can only give so much information. But my concern is when we have students that are doing things virtually, and we're talking about RTI once a week for tier 2, and we're giving them more, I mean, it's a different program, and I understand that, but how are we going to really address those needs?
Yep,
So,
I hear you.
And, you know, like I said, with the math scores, that's a concern, and if that's one of the things they need extra intervention in, how are we going to address that, so. It is a concern for everyone. It's not just for you. It's just what, you know, it's just where we are in education, but it's our responsibility to make sure that happens.
And so they're getting the appropriate
I just need you to really do a better narrative on what your intervention looks like, as long as and as well as your ELD program. Because we're talking AVID and things, and you're saying strategies, but you're not really being specific. With a 44% population, I needed to be specific, but you didn't tell me what your EL population is. I don't know what that is. That's okay. We can get it if you can just give me that, because I don't know what your EL population is. I don't know if you're 2%, if you're 25%, whatever you are. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. My turn?
Yes.
You have that? Yeah. All right. My comment is also on the scores and the general trend of them. Not as specific as Ms. Jensen's, but I am interested as the staff evaluates the petition, what the staff finds and ultimately recommends based on generally a downward trend across the categories. So I'm just curious what you make of that and what you make of their correction plans. Now, you know, obviously part of that can be what's happening with the student body. Is it growing? Is it growing certain demographics? But I'm sure you'll work through that. But there is a general downward trend over the 5 years, so it does beg the question. And you know, that doesn't necessarily come out when you know, 35% of scholars are scholars. Well, that means they're getting good grades. But you know, we deal with this here too. You know, it's called grade inflation, and the parents, CBAs, come home and they feel good, and so the surveys look great. But that's the reason we look at state test scores, because sometimes it's uncomfortable, but try to normalize. So I'm just curious what you guys find with that general downward trend and what the corrective actions are. And is there an underlying reason for it? You know, demographics in a group will possibly change it. That's where you were kind of coming from.
And we are working closely with getting that intervention and
Okay.
plan.
So that was my my observation, and I'll just wait for staff to let me know what they think. Is there any other comments or questions?
Just a quick comment. I just wanted to recognize you, because I appreciate the fact that there was a conference this summer called Computer User Education, which normally is in the spring where teachers attend and so on, but they have one for superintendents in the middle of summer, I think in July. And the first few superintendents that got selected, if they applied for it through an application process, it was all expenses paid, but you had to present and share ideas about what you're doing with technology in your school district. And I think you were the only charter school represented there, and there was two, okay, and you were selected as a presenter, I was as well. And I appreciated getting to know you a little better during that experience, but you quickly became a follower on Twitter and supported us in some of the things we're doing in our district, but I appreciate your transparency and your sincerity in the work that you're doing, so thank you.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, so I will close the hearing at 9:09. And Yolanda, you have a little vote annotation, but this is a public hearing, so I don't think that. Whoa, how's that one? Yeah. All right, hearing closed. Thanks for. Thank you. Okay. Item 11.03, Sunshine Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District initial proposal for changes to the contract with Acton Agua Dulce Teachers Association, AATA. And this is an action, so we'll move it in and then subsequently vote on our Sunshine. Do I have a motion to move it in?
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, so that was Ed Porter for the second, and Tim, did you move it?
Yes.
Okay, we have multiple people taking notes, in case we get confused. All right.
Just a couple quick comments. So if you recall, before winter break, I think in November, we had a joint, communicated joint sunshine agreement that we did with CSEA. So that was the district's sunshine proposal as well as CSEA's. And then before the break, the Teachers Association submitted for the board's approval their sunshine, which is and what sunshining is, just for public edification, it is the notice to the public that we intend to enter into bargaining sessions with the association on specific articles, but in this case, it is for the entire collective bargaining agreement, which the current one expired June 2018, which is not unusual to begin bargaining in year one of the new contract, which would be this school year, would be year one, and the subsequent following 2 years would be when the contract would end at the end of the 3 years. So this is just the public notification that we are entering into the whole contract is open. We do point out in the attachment that specifically it addresses employee benefits and salary, but also stipulates that we can open up any other article as we see fit during negotiations, and that the Teachers Association sees fit as well. So unless there's any questions, Dr. Cooper worked on this document, and so I appreciate his efforts, and I'll turn it over to the board.
Call to question. Aye?
Aye.
It's a 5-0-0. 11.04, Board Policy 3350, Travel Expenses, second read of revised BP 3350, BP Board Policy. And this is a second read and an action, because we'll be accepting it presumably or not after the second read. Okay, do I have a motion to bring it in? Kelly Jensen, I'll second it.
Okay, and this is, we discussed it last time. We did not redline it at the first read because, as Ms. David pointed out, there would have been too much to redline. We changed the most of the article. So in this board policy 3350, you'll see where we redline the tips and gratuities, because we do want to include tips and gratuities as part of the allowance, the per diem allowance for breakfast, lunch, or dinner when staff attend conferences, but we added the piece in there not to exceed 15%. So if a staff member was at a conference and wanted to leave a tip larger than the 15%, that would be on their own, which we thought was fair and kind of industry standard. So unless there's questions, Ms. David's here to help out with that.
Is that the only red one?
I believe that's the only,
Those were the only changes.
Yeah.
It was just as we discussed the last time, the actual CSBA document did not include gratuities. But that really is, you can't, it's just poor taste to not, so that's fine. The only change.
Yep. Any questions, discussion with the board members?
Okay. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. And so we'll call the question.
Aye.
Aye. It's a 5-0.
So thank you for approving that. I think that helps, especially when our teachers go to conferences. I was at a couple conferences with them last year, and I ended up purchasing the meals because really the dollar amounts that were in there were very unrealistic, and so I noticed that when I was at the conference with them, and so I helped take care of that, but they'll appreciate that, I think, as will the rest of our staff. Thank you.
Item 11.05, audit report for the period ending June 30th, 2018. I'll move this one in. Second. And George.
So we have Ms. David will introduce from Christy White and Associates here to help us out in the explanation of the audit report. Thank you.
Okay, we do have our auditor from Christy White Associates, Valerie Shaw, and I did ask her to come. I think it has been past practice that it was just reported to you. I think it's important because it really does represent the, you know, the actions and the transactions that occur in a summary of that. The audit from my perspective as the district's assistant superintendent of business is that, you know, we always strive to be perfect. We can always make improvements, and so we do want to make sure that we're doing the best and most responsible things possible. So it is actually very easy to work with this company. They do give us feedback and give us opportunities to make corrections wherever possible. And so I will turn it over to Shaw, and she can provide a summary of our audit report, and then the two of us can answer any questions you may have.
Sorry, my voice is kind of going, so I will try and be brief. We had a great audit report. We were able to give you unmodified opinions for all three categories that we do give opinions over, and that's the best opinion that we can give, which means that you've done everything that you're supposed to do. We did have 2 audit exceptions, which had to be reported in the report, and you'll see that towards the back. One related to credit card usage and policy, and I know you're already taking action towards implementing some new policy there. And the other was related to your associated student body accounting and some recommendations there. But otherwise, fantastic report. No significant adjustments, no significant findings beyond those 2. A really good job by the district. We did have one major change in the way that we report the audit, and that is related to GASB 75. It has to do with your other post-employment benefits. So the things when you pay retiree benefits, not STRS and PERS, but retiree benefits, and a new change in the accounting for that. So that required us to restate the beginning of position and bring on some new accounts and a larger liability, unfortunately, for that. But that's something that impacted all districts that do offer any kind of post-employment benefits. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
I have, but I can wait till we end.
We're going to start down there.
Oh, okay.
Oh, they come this way, always, this way, this way. You start there.
Tim,
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
and if you cover mine, then I won't have that. Good, thank you.
I pre-marked them because and mine's going to the end to ASB. Everything else I read through and I'm satisfied with it. You're fine on it. On page 18, you have what you call fiduciary funds. I have an interpretation what fiduciary funds are. Can you tell me what fiduciary funds are? I can see the numbers, but what does fiduciary mean?
Of course. So essentially what that means is it's money that's being entrusted by the district, so the district's holding the money, but it's not district money to spend. So we have 2 types of fiduciary funds here. One's the warrant pass-through fund, which is a clearing account that the district has, so it's not money that you can spend. And the other is your student body fund. So that's money that is under the district's tax ID and it's held for your school sites, but it's not available for the district to spend, it's for the students to spend.
So in lay terms, that could be is that we're acting as the bank for our ASBs on our respective sites.
Right, so you're the trustee over those funds, correct.
So the numbers that you have here, you have like 65 on the pass-through, and then there's around 20 for ASB.
Correct.
They have no relationship to each other?
No, okay. The warrant pass-through has to do with your payroll and some taxes and things like that go through the district office.
All right.
That's not.
Then I bounce up to 73. I'm gonna get there myself. And that just had to do with definitions, and it was talking about deficiency.
Sure.
And because I think there's been a lot of concern and discussion and observations and things going on with ASB, and in particular at the high school. And so I was reading the deficiency, and I just wanted a clarification on where you said the definitions there on 73. Where am I at here? Sorry, I gotta scroll up here. I don't have the hard copy in front of me. Can you just talk about deficiency with regards to this?
Sure. So the language included here is standard audit opinion language, but we have to define what we're including as deficiency. So we don't give you an opinion on internal control, but we do make recommendations when we do find deficiencies in internal control. So as I said, we found 2 items that we found to be significant deficiencies in internal control. And that's what those findings are towards the back of the report. But here you can see what we're saying is
a significant deficiency or deficiency in internal control exists because the design or operation of the control is not allowing management or the employee to perform their assigned functions or to identify fraud and that sort of thing.
Page 80, where you have down there on, that's where you note that there's significant deficiencies identified, and you have yes under financial statements there. Is that what you're referring to, is that we had those deficiencies allocated at the organization, the oversight, the operation of the ASB at the high school?
Right, so if you look at page 81 and 82, you'll see the two deficiencies.
I'm moving next to.
Yeah, so those are the deficiencies that we did identify. So this page on 80 is just the summary to tell you a real quick glimpse of, did you have deficiencies, did you have material weaknesses, that sort of thing. So.
Right. Because some of the concern I have with this is that it's been expressed to me, and some of them were my observations before I retired, that there was a lot of spending going on when there wasn't justification for that spending. Buying stuff that didn't need to be bought and so forth, checks going out with single signatures, not dual signatures, not having all the paperwork in place, even though cautions were brought up to the attention of the management or the ops, oh no, we're taking care of all that stuff. And I had 6 years of ASB when I first started, so I was sitting here going, wait a minute, I can just observe that things are going on, things are happening. My question is, when you came up with the 20,000, was there any identification of funds that are gone that we don't know where they are?
That's going to be disclosed in a separate report because this was done as an additional agreed upon procedure. So I believe you'll be getting that in the next week or so.
Oh, okay.
To actually go into the details of all that. I didn't.
No, you don't need to go into details as long as I know that, because I didn't see that in here, but I wanted to make sure that there's still concern about that. So I'll wrap up mine. So I appreciate all this here because you identified things that were well known on the site that were going on that couldn't be altered, and we're not there anymore. We have new administration, we have everything, and so I'm proof's in the pudding. I know that we're doing things differently, and we're taking some of your I see your recommendations down here, and this board here is responsible to make sure that those are appropriately implemented, that we don't go through this again, because in my entire 18 years there, this is the first time we've ever come up with such a bad report with regards to ASB. And I take a little bit of it personally with my 6 years there, being the ASB advisor, that I know the hard work it takes to make sure, because to me all those funds of ASB are designated funds for different organizations.
Sure.
And we as the board, the district is the bank for ASB. And to me, we're the FDIC of that. So when those missing funds are identified, the parents, the students, the fundraising, all the things that were generated, those funds for those particular entities on that campus, some of them don't have that money and they need that money back. Now we can't go to, it's gone, it's spent, it's whatever, but as a guarantor, FDIC, of this organization that we allow to take place on our site, that number is going to be important to understand how we resolve that concern about where that missing money is. And that'll come in that report you're coming up later.
Right, yeah, so you'll get the full detail.
Well, I appreciate your work on this, and I spent time looking at this and reviewing it and looking over detail. I'd like to very much thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you,
My comments are to staff. First off, this ASB thing, I've been on the board for a few years now. It seems to me that, I don't want to minimize things, certainly not to you, Tim, but the way it was structured, there were people working on sports, there were people working on theater, there was people working here. You've got students trying to develop basic retails. You know, the hot dog money ended up with the popcorn money, and I can see, I don't see anything nefarious about this. And I think that the way it's structured now is you have an ASB leader that is focused on the business of it, that type of thing. And I think that freed up the other people to focus on what their things are, like the theater and things like that. So I'm really happy. I think you've got some things in place. I want to be the bad guy on this other one, and I want everyone to listen very carefully because I'll say a lot without saying anything. Does everyone understand in the superintendent's office that these reports go back several years. Does everyone understand that you don't buy 25 things with a credit card and not put a receipt in for it? That you don't do no signature or single signature? In other words, I do my mileage and then I authorize my own mileage with no oversight. Does anyone understand that? Does everyone understand that? Do we have anybody employed that is still doing those things? Thank you. Very good.
You brought something up that my time's up, so I'm going to wait until.
You didn't want to mess with that anyway.
Well, no, but you reminded me of something else I wanted to say that I forgot to say.
Go ahead.
No, I'll wait till.
Okay.
I'll wait till your next report comes out, because then I want to take time to study that and then interacting with the new site administrator.
Let them like you.
I guess
no, they're not going to like me. That's the way.
Okay. My question was, I just want to know how to read this portion of the report. I think I understand it. For the findings that are labeled 2017, 1 and 2, current status implemented, that I assume that means we at least fixed last year's problem, so you didn't see it again?
We didn't see a reoccurrence of
Oh, okay, well that's, we can learn. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I thought about it. I'm going to say it. So, a result of some of the issues that we currently have, that we're talking here right now, were the failure on, not the board, but the district administration, your predecessor, to not listen to the site saying, don't do this that way. And I can only speak for myself because I was directly involved into the original drafting of the job description for the person that's no longer here. And they wanted to include the financial with the athletic director's department. And I said, no, you shouldn't do that. That's a non-starter. Oh no, we need to combine these. And so that's when I withdrew my participation to be that athletic director, because I said, no, I'd already done that separately, and we did that. So we want to make sure that we respond to the recommendations here, is that we actually have a separate person doing financial accounting at the site, and it's not just necessarily a part-time person. It may have to be, we're talking not significant dollars, that it may be something. It's separate from athletics and activities. It's the financial part that protects all of these donations and fundraisers that the students and the parents in our community do. We have to show that we're watching that closely.
Yeah, you and Ken are spot on, and I commend you for doing the homework. But you're exactly right, and there's issues that we can't discuss in public that are related to this that would be a closed session item. So if you ever want to revisit any history related to personnel, we can discuss that in closed session. But we immediately addressed the issues and took appropriate courses of action along the way to ensure that these things don't occur moving forward.
If I can just add also that with the new staff that's in place, Mr. Andres, Ms. DeHammer, who is the ASB bookkeeper, the board actually approved that as a separate position, and she's the one who was selected for it. We have the new ASB activity director. So I mean, some of them are staff that was there before Mr. Sparks is taking on the position of the athletic director. All of the people have been to a FCMAT training. FCMAT is kind of like the gold standard of fiscal oversight for school districts. So they've all been to an actual training with FCMAT, and then the audit company will be coming in and doing another training for district staff again, and that'll include the athletic director, not the athletic director, as well as the coaches and club directors, so that everyone understands why it's important to plan ahead, that you can't skip those signatures, that we have everything continue as it needs to be. So that's our goal, is to keep things going forward according to procedures for the reasons of protecting the funds and the students.
Yeah, quick. So in the process, while we're doing this, business is still occurring, and so our current organizations, and I'm specifically addressing athletics, is that they're getting their bills paid, and they're able to access what little money they have left, because some of them are missing somebody, but they're able to get things done while they're in their season of sport, correct?
Yeah, I apologize. I don't mean to be rude to address you from my seat, but that's a long way over there. What we've done this year, in fact, I was just talking to some coaches of girls basketball game tonight. is while we're waiting for the final report about ASB funds, there are things that can be paid either out of ASB or they can legally be moved into the site accounts because they're essential to a school program. And so while we've been waiting for that report, we have been paying for things out of the site funds to ensure that all of our programs are adequately provided with equipment, etc. When we get the final reports, we'll go back and make sure that everything
Do a reconciliation
is reconciled. But it was decided very early this year that we weren't going to jeopardize our programs while we waited to sort out the financial issues attached to them. So we've been making sure that our programs are all with what we need, but not necessarily everything they would like.
Any other comments?
No, not from me.
Call the question to accept the report as presented.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, item 12. Item 12, future agenda items. Mr. King, anything you want to say? Other than it's on there, high-speed rail presentation and facility management.
Mr. President? Yes? May we put on the future agenda items an evaluation of the our bond amount for a high school, just an understanding of, you know, what the limits are.
That's fine. That is no problem with that.
Thank you very much.
People know. On
CFW should know.
Yeah, of course. It'll confirm what we both speculated, and that's appropriate. Okay, do you want to say anything other than 12?
No.
Anything additional on 12?
I had a chance to speak with Ken Falstaff, and so we got kind of dialed in as to kind of what we're looking for in that facilities maintenance plan report, and some dialogue with Ms. David. So there's a meeting that Ms. David would like to go to with Ernesto Moore, I think, this month, and then they'll be ready for the plan to report out in February, even on the 14th and 28th.
So when you said maintenance, that's going to be the maintenance of the...
All of our properties. How do we maintain deferred maintenance, repairs, carpeting, what is the allocation per area, square foot, or on our fields and so on.
And that's what, so like along what Kim was saying, so that now that we have a nice softball field, that we're maintaining that and, you know, better.
What I've asked for is just pretty much standardized stuff in public sector stuff is what part of your facility is educational, what part of it is administration, what part of it is parking lot, what part of it is sports fields, what is your budget set out. There's union issues, there's association, there's job description, all that, but it's just a look down on the bigger part of the operation to say, we've got 14,000 feet of this here, we've got our labor effort is this here, and it kind of says, here's where we're at right now in terms of people. There's some industry standards that are used. I mean, there's a measurement tool that the district uses that's well known. So my suggestion was on the CASP report, there's a third party that is responsible for assigning those ratings. And part of those ratings, in addition to the school scores, are the facilities ratings, and you'll be good or needs improvement or whatever. What I suggested is they back out of those ratings because those are given by a third party basically, and then assign what the maintenance picture looks like. So this is like a global view backing out of a third party. They're going to explain what their measurement tool is. It's all very objective, and it's just basically saying, let's draw a line in the sand and see what maintenance effort is, because until we know that, it's very difficult to talk to the public about a bond. It's very difficult to tell people who are expecting us to move to the next field because the other two are ratted out. It just kind of says, okay, in reality, this is what we're dealing with, and I think it's a good standard. Thank you.
And once it's done,
Well, then what happens is if you want to do this, then it's going to cost this, and it allows staff to prioritize things within the budget they have.
Item 13.1, calendar.
On January 12th, there's, as Mr. King described earlier, that's tomorrow morning. We're going to learn how to work better together.
Saturday.
I'm sorry, Saturday, tomorrow's Friday.
Yes.
Yep, and we will be out of here before midnight. So on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, we're going to get together and work on our team building. But because more than 2 of us are in the same place at the same time, it's a meeting and you're all welcome. On January 24th, of course, is our next regular board meeting. Okay, for closed session, there was no action taken, so there's no report out for closed session. That's item 14. Item 15 is adjournment.
So moved.
Okay, that's Ed Porter, seconded by Tim Jurgensen. The time, I'm going to call it at 9:37 once we take our vote to adjourn. Call the question?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, folks. Happy New Year.